Gaza?
Yeah.
Well, according to the New York Times, Israel is building a base or bases in central Gaza, which is an indication that they are there to stay. Do you have any comment on that?
Well,
Is the administration able to do anything to undo this or to make sure that this does not happen?
Said, I've seen those reports, and I will leave it to the Israeli government to speak to their veracity or not. Certainly would not be for us to speak to, but on that site, if they are true, certainly they would be inconsistent with a number of the principles that Secretary Blinken laid out in Tokyo about a year ago of what our viewpoint is when it comes to the region and the future of the region. So, firstly, that would most certainly be the case, and I think key among them is that there cannot be any reduction in territory of Gaza. Beyond that, there can also be no forced displacement of Palestinians from their home, and they must be allowed to return safely to their homes in the north as soon as the conditions allow. So first and foremost, should this be true, it would be inconsistent with the principles that the Secretary laid out in Tokyo. I will leave it to the Israeli government to speak to that reporting. It's really not for us to speak to.
But certainly you have the means to, to determine the veracity of these claims or these reports.
I don't have
You have to wait for the Israelis
I
to tell
don't
you
have it.
that we are building bases?
I don't have an assessment to offer from up here side on
the United States is it's not it's involved in this process.
Side
all throughout.
As you so know, we don't have any boots on the ground in Gaza. Beyond that, I don't have. It's certainly not for us to speak to on the veracity of these. If they are, it would most certainly be inconsistent with what we want to see for the region, and certainly would be inconsistent with the principles that the Secretary laid out in Tokyo. And should they be true, it's certainly something that we will raise quite seriously with our partners in Israel. But I don't have an assessment to offer.
But with that, this must be one of the most surveilled pieces of real estate anywhere in the world, especially by the United States and by its allies. You can't tell me you don't know what's going on in Gaza.
Said, we of course know what's going on in Gaza. We of course are paying very close attention to what's happening in Gaza as it relates to this particular piece of reporting, which I'll just note comes from a media outlet. It's not any kind of government-to-government announcement or government-to engagement. I don't have anything else to offer beyond what I just said.
Well, I tell you that Volker Turk, the chief UN human rights person or chief human rights chief, as a signatory to the Geneva Convention, he's calling on everybody, as a matter of fact, to do something that you are obligated under the Geneva Convention to actually do something. Why are you not doing anything?
We are deeply concerned about the humanitarian toll in Gaza and the high number of civilian casualties, and we are continuing to press Israel to maximize and streamline the existing crossings and open more crossings to help further address the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. On top of that, we want to see an end to the war, and that's what we're trying to accomplish, and that's what we have continued to be engaged on for quite some time now, and we'll continue to work at this till the very last hour of this administration.
But being concerned and doing something are two separate things.
Said,
I'm sure there's a great deal of concern and there's a great deal of anger and frustration in this building, but we don't see any action.
Respectfully, Said, I would take issue with that because over the course of the totality of this conflict, when we have seen things that are inconsistent with what we want to see for the region, when we have seen things that are inconsistent for what we want to see for Gaza, when we've seen things that are inconsistent with what we want to see for the Palestinian people, we've said so. Sometimes we've said so publicly. Every time we've said so privately, and we have raised this directly with our partners crisis in Israel. And I needn't point further than some of the specific areas in which we have asked for remediation when it comes to humanitarian aid. I would point back to the first days of the administration, in which it was the work of this secretary that really helped unlock the initial influx of humanitarian aid. And in the ensuing months since then, it is the work of this department and others across the interagency that has continued to push for the use of additional border crossings, the use of additional tactics to further enhance humanitarian aid. We have taken appropriate action. We'll continue to take action, as I said, till the very last hour of this administration, when we see things that are inconsistent with what we want to see.
So let me just, on this point, we saw the statement issued by Matt last time about the meeting with Dermer, between the Secretary of State Blinken and Dermer, in which he says, he talked about the need to end the war and then the need to get the hostages home and so on. Now, at the same time, earlier in the day, we saw a statement by the president-elect basically threatening to, wipe out and make whatever happened thus far in Gaza to seem like a picnic. Those are my words, not his words. But, does that give you more incentive to do more things, and does it give it a sense of urgency to you that you got to do something and do it quick before the 20th of January?
What we are focused on, Saeed, is we are focused on using every ounce of energy and every time that we have available to bring this war to a close, to do everything we can to address the humanitarian situation in Gaza, and everything we can to make sure that the hostages can return home and bring this war to a conclusion and start having a serious diplomatic conversation of what we want the region to look like the day after. That's what we're focused on. There's only one president at a time. I will leave it to you all to ask the tough questions of the next administration starting on the 21st. But beyond that, I'm really not a spokesperson for them, so I will let them clarify whatever thoughts they have about the Middle East.
The coming administration. I'm saying that give you, that make you feel urgent.
We are continuing to operate with the utmost urgency, and I think there's not really a public statement, whether it's from a former president or otherwise, that is going to impact that, because we are already operating at maximum urgency.
My last question, I asked Matt yesterday on the killing of the World Central Kitchen employees, and yesterday that was happening, because that happened on Sunday. Yesterday they killed one aid worker from Save the Children. I mean, if this had happened anywhere in the world, if it was happening in Ukraine or anywhere in Africa, wherever it is, you would be outraged. Why is there not even a whimper, not even an outrage, not even a statement saying you condemn this?
We are outraged, and we are wanting more information about this incident. We are concerned by that reported strike that killed the Save the Children aid worker in Khan Yunis. Our view is and has been that humanitarian workers must be protected so they can safely deliver aid, whether it be in Gaza or whether it be truly anywhere in the world. And as I said, the IDF needs to provide additional information about this incident. I'm not going to draw any conclusion on it until we have seen more information and are able to gather the facts. But broadly, we urge Israel to thoroughly and transparently investigate actions like these and take appropriate action in their system, including ensuring accountability for any violations within their system.
Do you condemn the killing of aid workers by the Israeli army?
Saeed, we of course condemn the intentional we condemn the intentional killing of aid workers anywhere. As it relates to this specific incident, we have asked for additional information. I'm not going to draw any conclusion until that has happened. But of course, we are deeply concerned and troubled by this reported strike. And as you've heard me say, we think that aid workers need to be able to do their work, not just in Gaza, but in other places in the world.